So welcome, my friends. So we're gonna have our next our friend talk about the recap from our first learning session.
Awesome. Thank you, Walid. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Kumsa. I'm with the Toronto Community Benefits Network, as well as with the Rpna Community Benefits Coalition. And so I'll do a quick recap of the first meeting. I do see some people here from the first meeting on September 27th. And so right now we have a 3-part learning series. This is the second of 3 events that we have scheduled so far. And we're hoping to also get some feedback for future events for the learning series. And so for the first event that happened on September 27th, some of the focus for that discussion was around, what are community benefits? So really doing a community benefits 101 and introduction. We also had some examples from phases 1 to 3, directly in Regent Park, and some of the examples of different benefits that directly came through the first phases of revitalization in Regent Park. We also heard from TCHC around some of the other revitalization projects in the city of Toronto. TCHC is leading many different revitalization projects. And we were able to learn more about some of the different benefits that came through those projects, whether it came around employment, scholarships and training, or other type of funding for community programs. We also had a really great history of the Rpna. So we heard directly from members of the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association and some of the involvement that the community members have had so far in this process. This process for phases 4 and 5 has started many years back. Many of you have been involved in different meetings around phases 4 and 5. And so we were able to learn more about what are some of the accomplishments that the Community Benefits Coalition was able to achieve through the Rpna. And so one of those accomplishments was the Community Benefits Framework, which was an agreement between the Rpna and the Toronto Community Housing, which provided more information around the process for phases 4 and 5 as it relates to the 26.8 million and community benefits that you'll hear more about today. And then we also had a really great breakout discussion amongst our groups, which was really great to hear more and meet other people in the neighborhood. And so we're going to have a similar breakout today as well with some questions that we have prepared. I'm also going to do a quick community benefits recap for some of you who may be new to learning more about the terminology of community benefits, and you may be wondering, what is it? What I'm going to be doing is actually starting off with a video. And the video is actually from a recent webinar that was hosted by my organization, the Toronto Community Benefits Network. And it specifically spoke to the connection between community benefits and building inclusive, sustainable communities. Which is something that's so important today with the focus around Indigenous rights, addressing anti-Black racism, even specifically directly in the neighborhood. And one of the incidents that came up and is in this video is around the nooses that was found on the construction sites last year in Regent Park. And those type of acts of racism, which directly impact not only people who are working on the project, but across the community and in the neighborhood. And there was many community responses and events that came out of that to directly shout out and say no to that hate that was happening in the neighborhood. And so I'll share a 3-minute video, and then we'll come back to community benefits and some of the different terminology of what it is.
Place, I reckon with the depths of colonialism's brutality, past and present, and embrace my responsibility to join with others in dismantling systems of oppression and to build together for justice. Earlier this week, Labor Day gave us an opportunity to celebrate workers and pay closer attention to whose work is visible and valued and where that work takes place. You can still find Atkinson's reflections and those of our CEO, Colette Murphy, on our website or social feeds. The connection between geography, economy, and labor are not always immediately powerful. If you have any doubts about that, community benefits organizers will show you just how powerful. They're using community benefits tools to build people power and rewrite the very rules of the economy where they live.
Just to recognize that the topic that we have with this webinar series today is about building an anti-racist society. And we all are most likely aware of the nooses that were found on construction sites in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, basically telling Black people that they were unsafe on the job site. And it was a moment where the community mobilized and where the industry recognized that it was a time of reckoning. And we came together and really looked at what we can do as a community to really root out the vestiges of anti-Black racism and systemic racism in our society. And today is an opportunity for us to really discuss this with the people on the ground who are doing this work and who have been doing this work. And just to understand from their perspective, the kinds of intentional efforts that we have to put in place as a society to create the change that we want to see.
Is that there is a growing consensus, I would say, around community benefits being the best form of economic upliftment for racialized Canadians and people and minorities and equity-seeking groups across Canada.
What do we mean when we say, what is anti-Black racism? So we're hearing a little bit about a broader theme of racism, but I think understanding the unique ways anti-Black racism shows up is really critical to this conversation. And so although racism can happen at an interpersonal level, hearing the stories about nooses on construction sites, what CABR really focuses on is the unique ways in which anti-Black racism permeates institutional and structural levels.
Building anti-racist communities is founded in principles of equity, principles of understanding that without unpacking power, we can't actually create the anti-racist world.
So that was a little video of a webinar that happened a couple of weeks ago, and it's one webinar of a series that's happening. And so if you want to learn more about community benefits, you can go to www.communitybenefits.ca, where you can learn more about the TCBN and some of the different webinars that we're going to be hosting. And so for the terminology when it comes to community benefits, some of the key focus areas include ensuring equitable economic opportunities that promote economic inclusion for people from historically disadvantaged communities and equity-seeking groups, right? And so when development happens, a lot of new jobs are being created, whether it's before the development happens, during the development, even after the development. And so those are great opportunities to ensure that as those new jobs are being created, that there's economic inclusion, especially for those who are from historically disadvantaged communities and equity-seeking groups who should actually be prioritized in getting those opportunities. Community benefits is also about supporting a system of training and workforce development programs, right? Recognizing that people may have barriers to entering into the labor market, but ensuring that there are systems and training to help support and guide people into sustainable, good jobs and careers in their local communities. It also contributes to sustainable communities with direct investments into neighborhood and environmental improvements, right? And so recognizing that as the neighborhood changes, that there has to be a direct focus in making sure that there are direct investments that are going into the community, whether it's around neighborhood priorities or other environmental priorities. And one of the key tools to ensure that community benefits are delivered is through what's called a community benefits agreement. And so this is actually a document that's signed by all parties to ensure that whatever is being committed, that there are targets and that there's opportunity for monitoring and accountability from all parties to deliver on community benefits. And this approach is a little bit different than how development is usually done. A lot of times, like you'll see here on the left side, development without a CBA versus a development with a CBA. And on the right side is the approach that we're hoping to take here in Regent Park, in terms of recognizing that as community organizations, as community members, as activists, that we can come together and have a voice through the Rpna, which is the Community Benefits Coalition, and also working closely with the government, the City of Toronto, and TCHC, who are leading the process for phases 4 and 5, and also the developer who's going to be, building the community, and to work with them to ensure that some of the community priorities are being met, as well as unions and local businesses who also have a stake in ensuring that they meet the obligations and can be supported, through the community benefits process. And so this is the approach that we want to take, ensuring that the community has a voice at the table. And so you'll hear a little bit more in terms of how that's being structured through the social development plan here in Regent Park. So at this point, we're going to have a couple questions just to gauge some people's understanding about community benefits. And this could be a good way to see, if you can come out to more learning sessions and learn more about community benefits. And so I'll turn it over to Asal, who's going to guide us through some of the polls that we have for the next 2 slides. So we have 2 polls. So the first one is, what could community benefits include? And so you have 6 options. And so for those who are on the computer or on your phone, you can directly vote. And you have, maybe give it a couple minutes for everyone to vote. And for those who are on the phone, we have 6 options in the poll. So the question, I'll repeat it again, is what could community benefits include? So option 1 is neighborhood and environmental improvements. Second is training and experiential learning. 3 is good jobs and career opportunities. 4 is purchasing goods and services from local businesses and social enterprises. 5, community facilities, parks and recreations. 6, community programs and initiatives. Or 7, all the above. And for those who are trying to look for all the above, unfortunately, there isn't an option for that, so you can choose more than one.
Looks like 19 people have responded so far, so maybe we'll give it another 10 seconds or so. And as a reminder, please select all that you think that apply. You're not just bound by one answer. Okay, Kumsa, I'm going to end the poll now and just share the results.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So it looks like we had 82% said neighborhood environmental improvements, 82% for training and experiential learning, 86% for good jobs and career opportunities. I didn't speak to this, but 64% was purchasing goods and services from local businesses and social enterprises. For community facilities and parks recreation, 86%, community programs and initiatives, 86%. So that's a pretty great result. I think well done, everyone. This was kind of a trick question. It was all the above. So as long as you selected one of the options, then you did well. So thank you, Asal, for that. And we'll go over to the second poll. So this one's a little bit more trickier, but very similarly, the question is, what does community benefits not include? And so feel free to select all that apply. And so to repeat the question again, what does community benefits not include? And so there are 5 options here. The first one is good jobs and career opportunities. Second one is more policing. The third one is training and experiential learning. The fourth one is community programs and initiatives. The fifth one is community facilities, park and recreation. And again, there's no all the above, so just please select all that may apply. Oh, wow, we're getting some quick responses. Thank you all for responding so quickly. Maybe we'll give it a 20 more seconds.
Okay, I think that 20 seconds is up. So I'm going to end this poll now.
Oh, awesome. 80% said more policing, which was the correct answer. So if you chose more policing, that is correct. More policing is not part of community benefits. Thank you all for participating in this poll. And we will move on to the next section, which will be speaking more about the community priorities report. So I know Michael is on the phone, so please bear with us. And Michael, take it away from here.
Okay, so I'm Michael Rosenberg. I'm running a group called the Regent Park Social Action Group. I'm part of the Community Benefits Coalition. As you may remember, over the last couple of years, TCHC was negotiating with 3 different developers, and they eventually selected Tridel. During that negotiation process with the developers, the coalition wanted TCHC to know what kinds of things to negotiate for, what the community wanted. So we had some meetings to write up a community priorities report. We had a community-wide meeting about it, and the report was eventually produced. I'm sure it will be available to you. But I'm going to just talk about some of the items that are in it. There's a section on community space, which involves community-controlled space and spaces for small businesses. So that the small businesses could get space such as low-rent commercial space, possibly commercial spaces for sale, although that's sort of an interesting idea that may or may not happen, and other ways for small businesses to get spaces, such as market space for small vendors. Then we have the request for a community-controlled space, which is not the same thing as just a space that's used for services or other spaces they might build. They're considering building a library to replace the existing library. That may or may not happen, but in any case, whether or not we get other types of spaces, one of the types of spaces we would definitely like to get is a space that has its own control with a community board of management. And that is very similar to what they call the Association of Community Centers. So if you ever hear that term AOCC, it means the places like the 519 and the Ralph Thornton Center. So it'd be really good to have one of those in Regent Park. And if they, that we'll have to be having over this next year discussions with TCHC, Tridel, and the city to figure out what kinds of spaces to build. And we just want to make sure that the number of square feet that they build is enough so that, if they have some ideas of their own, like a library, and if the community supports that, that's great. But we just want to make sure that in addition to other types of service spaces, we do get a AOCC community center similar to the 519 or Ralph Thornton. So just to make sure that, amongst all the other different types of spaces, we at least have enough square feet built so that we can get an AOCC in Regent Park. So then some of the other topic areas were employment. we've already heard a bit about that, but it basically means apprenticeships and jobs for local people. Then we have other areas. Affordable housing was an important area, and that includes affordable home ownership, where down payments are partially provided by either the developer or the levels of government, the three levels of government. So one option is to try to get some units of affordable housing that is for people to buy at a reduced cost. And then there's, of course, affordable rental housing. Of course, we all know the city uses a number of different ways to calculate how much to subsidize affordable rental housing. Could be anything from rent geared to income to some percentage of the average market rent. But we would certainly hope that it's not a very high percentage of the market rent where you end up with something that's hardly distinguishable from existing market housing. So, at least certainly, less than half of the average existing prices would be, a major step towards affordability. So that has to be one of the topic areas is affordable housing. And all of these topic areas will be further discussed over the next year. Initially, we just put this report together so it could be used during the negotiation phase. But of course, the final decisions are not what's in this report. It's just a starting point for the discussions that will happen in the next year. So the remaining items in the report are a community endowment fund, which is just a set of money that can be used in the long term, which could be funded by putting in something like perhaps $5,000 for each unit that's built into a fund, or possibly get some money from commercial rents. So those are options to provide a fund for use in the future. We also had a brief discussion during those community meetings about programs. So we didn't go into a lot of detail. We just emphasized the needs, particularly of youth, seniors, and disability. But the details of what kinds of programs that could include will definitely have to be further discussed, because we didn't have a lot of detail at the time. And then the last step was some steps towards community involvement, which, as time has gone on, we've moved more and more towards actual involvement in actual decision making for community benefits and for what is being built. We'd like the community to actually, be able to approve or say yes or no, not just give feedback and let them write the final reports, but actually have the community involved. And we'll see how well that goes as we continue to try to get an actual role in decision making. But those steps towards that are certainly some of the things that we have been asking for. So those are the kinds of things that we've asked for in those phases or steps up to now. And that process will continue over the next year as these are further discussed and more community input is received. And hopefully we'll be able to get to the point where it's community decision making, not just community input. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I see two hands, Ines and Rashida. Ines, you want to go first?
Okay, so Kumsa. It's priority for TCHC residents because of the revitalization. Okay. You're asking, I don't know, this survey that you're asking right now, are you going to be asking this survey or this questions to TCHC tenants' priority of what they would like to see and what they want? Because here in this meeting right here, learning series, there's a lot of agencies, and if there's not enough TCHC tenants, and I think we need to really put those in the agenda and we need to really go with the TCHC tenants priority, ask them those questions. We need to go out there and go and talk to them and ask them, what is it you like to see? Because you're here, it's not enough TCHC tenants. There's a lot of agencies. They don't live here. So why are they making choices for TCHC tenants when it should be heard from TCHC tenants?
Those are very good points, Ines. Thank you for sharing.
Kosa, just before you respond, I just want to make sure it's very clear. We have a distinction between the community priorities report and the community learning series. The community priorities report was done in 2019. The majority of respondents were actually TCHC tenants, right? We had also elected representatives show up to those meetings. So hundreds of residents, TCHC tenants, you know, many of them who are part of this meeting. So I just want to make sure it's very clear that this report was informed by TCHC tenants. And you're right, community benefits should prioritize TCHC tenants. In fact, in our negotiations, we've made those specific requests, not just talking, but we want it in writing through a community benefits agreement. So, you know, I understand your sentiment, Ines, but I want to invite you to invite other TCHC tenants, your neighbors, to join the next community learning series so they're able to benefit from the knowledge we're trying to share. So please, I want you to understand the distinctions between the two. This priorities are informed by TCHC tenants. Rashida, go next.
No, hold on. I would like to hear from Kumsa, please.
Yeah, Kumsa can go ahead. But
Yeah,
I want to
Thank
make sure
you.
that Rashida also gets her questions asked.
No, that's a really great question, Ines. And you know, my response to you is that no decisions have been made. Like, we haven't made any decisions yet. A lot of what we're doing now through this learning series is to inform people around how important it is to get involved, because there are going to be meetings where community is going to be able to provide feedback. And so we want to be able to have as much TCHC tenants there to provide feedback and to hear directly from community members, and to take that back in informing the community benefits agreement that will be signed, and that will be the final decision document. And so that's my response. And it's great to have you here, Ines, because this is also information that you can take back to your neighbors, right, and to share with them, and to let them know that this is an important time to get involved. And I hope that can continue. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kumsa. I just wanted to say, I understand you, TCHC send the flyers and all that stuff. I think we need to do more of the outreach, and everybody is so busy with so many stuff in the community that sometimes people forget. I even forgot, but because you send it again today, I go, oh my gosh, I forgot about it. You know what I mean? Like, we have to keep on reminding those people that this is happening again.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
And we have to go to them as well if need be, right? And I know there's different strategies that's been used to directly engage people in the buildings and in different ways. So, you know, I think we're going to have a discussion at the end. Ines, I hope you stay with us, because we have 25 minutes just to talk about how we get more people involved, and what type of things we can do to get more people involved in the process and to hear their voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Rashida, you want to go next?
Sure. No, I just want to clarity on one of the things which Michael was saying about the STP table, which is need the 5,000 square feet. My understanding is for the STP table is going to be, I don't know how long it's going to be there, because, you know, until the city funded, the social development plan will be happening, or maybe another 5 more years. I don't just see what's the reason we need that space when we can have that meeting where there spaces exist already in the community. So I don't know. Can you just clarify on that, please?
It's possible that the STP requirements could be met with other spaces. But the advantage of having an AOCC is it would be able to provide spaces to groups maybe that don't even exist yet. Or see, if we allocate all the space to existing groups, then what happens when there's a new group? So it'll be good to have some space. This is sort of separate from the SDP space that is available, so that some new groups could come along and say, we want some space, and that space already exists. So it's like the community centers, but this is a different type of community center than it's not run by the city, it's run by the local people who are on the local board. It has its own board. That's the main thing. But it's also a model that the city already has. They know what it is. They have recently expressed some willingness to do it. So it's not as difficult as it may seem. As long as we make an effort to get an AOCC, we should be able to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thanks for the clarity. But then again, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like when the STP is only going to be there until the revitalization exists, and then the spaces there's like when we can have one big space instead of like the spaces for this and that, and then everybody can share place, right? That's why I just want that clarity on that.
So Mashida, that's a good point, but residents have also made it clear they want different purposes. They want spaces for different purposes, and we must respect the hundreds of residents that we engage with through the community priorities report. And this information was actually passed on to Tridel through the process that they won the bid to redevelop Regent Park in phase 1 and 5. So these expectations have been made very clear in the process. So I think we are trying to make sure that we plan for the spaces now, right? Before it's too late. We have Marlene next. Go ahead, Marlene.
Can I just also get one thing? Sorry, I'm
Go ahead.
so sorry.
Go ahead, Marshina.
No, it's because the thing is we have some existing community space which we have to pay rent to those places. What if we have more spaces when somebody have to pay those rented, and how are we going to able to afford these things?
Excellent question.
So
yeah,
that's another thing.
I don't know.
Normally an AOCC is owned by the city and they pay for the maintenance costs. I mean, the point is, if it was run by a community board, then the community groups would be able to access it. We don't seem to have anything like that with the existing community center. I mean, the community center, the city has two completely different ways to run a community center. It's either run by Parks, Forestry, and Recreation, or it's run by a community board. And those are it matters. Depending on how the space is run, that affects what you can actually get from the space. And a lot of people have been having trouble getting anything out of that community center.
So thank you, Michael.
Whereas I've had lots of experience with the 519 and the Ralph Thornton, and they are great places to deal with. So it actually would be a great thing to have.
Thank you, Michael. I know there's a lot of interest in the details of the community priorities report. I just want to remind, we've got over 40 people at this meeting today. I want to remind everyone at our next community learning series, we will talk about the community priorities report in much more detail. This is just an overview, but through the next learning series, we'll get into more details. Marlene, go ahead.
Yeah, this is just another bit tacked onto that. We remember that we've always wanted space that's controlled by the people, and we've never been granted that. So instead of having, say, the what do you call it, the sports area or the community center that was run by us, the city took both of them over, and that's why our kids have difficulty using them, because they put exorbitant fees on them, and they put ridiculous time constraints on them. If we ran them ourselves, we would have none of those problems.
Well said.
That's why we want them controlled by the community.
Well said. And it's also about the hours of operations.
That's what I'm talking about, the hours of operation. Yeah. They control those. If we control them, we wouldn't have those difficulties.
Well said, Marlene.
And we wouldn't have people from outside of the community having more access to them than we do.
Well said. So I'm not sure if Michael's finished with his presentation as of yet. The last point that was raised was focused on resident engagement. So thank you so much, Michael, for your presentation. So I think we'll move on to the next slide. And this one's related to community benefits and the commitment. So I'd like to invite our friends from TCHC and Tridel.
Sorry, everybody. Was just trying to figure out my headphones. Waleed, can you give me a thumbs up that you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Nice, nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Very well.
Wonderful.
high quality earphones.
Oh, great. They're like 6 years old. So there you go. Hi, everybody. My name's Maggie. I'm from Tridel, a part of the Community Economic Development team. And, oh, did someone say, oh, you can hear too. Thanks, Calvin. And so this slide just represents the total community benefits commitment of $26.8 million. You'll see a couple of different little blurbs that come out from that main speech bubble, from jobs to support of the social development plan, as well as training and scholarships. And you'll also see a little question mark there. And what that means is while we do the engagement process with members of the community, this is to be determined by members of the community, what this is going to look like, how it's going to be spent. So I'm going to put it over to my colleague Asal, who will talk a little bit more about employment.
Thanks, Maggie. And so when we're talking about employment, I just wanted to give everyone just a very high level definition of it, and what will be contained under sort of the community benefits. And I do want to preface this saying that we're still going to go through a year-long consultation that will determine many of the things that me and Maggie will be speaking about, and that's to start in the new year. So when we're talking about employment, we've heard loud and clear that employment is important to the community. And so these are employment opportunities that will be facilitated by Tridel. They will include a range of opportunities across industries because we've heard that message very clearly. So there will be mainly the priority will be given to full-time positions, but of course part-time and summer internship positions, which meet needs of some residents, whether they're unable to work full-time hours, or students who are looking to get in some experience. And they'll range in construction and non-construction based opportunities. There's also myself, which I think I've spoken with some of you here, who is a dedicated employment specialist to work one-on-one with residents, understand their interests, and connect them to opportunities. And with that, I will. Oh, Rashida, you're saying that I'm hard to hear. Is everyone else experiencing that, or is it okay? I can repeat myself.
Now you're sounding better.
Okay, so I came closer to this. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
It's okay. Go ahead.
So maybe I'll just stop here and say, for those, does anyone have any questions, or would you like me to sort of repeat what I just said?
Let's see the chat. I see Marlene has a question. Go ahead, Marlene.
I think Marlene's hand may have been up from before.
Oh, lower hand. Perfect. Okay, anyone else? I see nothing on the chat, so I think people heard you. Thank you, Asal, for that. Okay.
So I'll pass it on to Maggie here. She has a voice that projects better than me, I guess.
Well, it helps when the microphone is like right by your mouth, and also I just naturally talk loud. So training and scholarships, this refers really, and again, we really look forward to understanding more about, the educational and the training and the capacity building opportunities that residents are looking for. So this could include, but not restricted to, post-secondary opportunities, postgraduate certificate programs across a variety of ages. So for new students and perhaps returning or mature students, and post-secondary can refer to university degrees or college diplomas, among others. And as far as the training programs that lead to employment, these can be both in support of programs that already exist, or those that we might want to create together to fit the unique needs of Regent Park residents. So that's what we really look forward to that discussion over the next year, to understand what kind of skill building or educational opportunities the community is really looking for. Sal, we're doing a bit of back and forth.
Thanks, Maggie. And then the last bucket here that we wanted to talk about was the social development plan. Kumsa, do you mind just, yeah, great. And this is just investments to support the social development plan. And I know Ibrahim will be speaking a little bit more about this later in the presentation. And so really this could be quite broad, and some of the stuff that Michael highlighted before. So the community priorities report as well could be included in this. And so once again, this will all be determined through the one-year consultation that will start next year. And we are looking forward to hearing the voices of residents and understanding what those needs are. And with that, I think I'll move on to the next.
Thank you, Kumsa. So just quickly before we pass it on to well, and Asal's going to talk about one more thing that we have. I just wanted to bring people's attention to the fact that we do have a resource that is dedicated for residents of revitalization communities, and it's called tridelcommunityworks.com. And I just wanted to highlight as well that we have learned both from the community priorities report as well as frequent conversations with residents how important employment really is. And I mean, this is a kudos to my colleague Asal, but also to the highly capable and talented TCHC tenants who have been hired to date. And I believe, Asal, since May, we filled 9 positions, many of whom actually got connected to us through Tridel Community Works. So we would definitely encourage you, and thank you, Teresa, I see you put it in the chat. We would absolutely encourage you to check that out. It's a job board, it's access to employment resources, and it's also a direct connection to our team. So please, if you have time, check out that website and get in touch with us. And last slide to you, Asal.
And finally, I do also want to talk briefly about our the Building Opportunities for Life Today program. And so Tridel is the principal and founding sponsor of the foundation, and BOLT is to inspire a new generation of industry professionals by providing access to education, training, employment, and construction for youth aged 17 to 29. That is their mandate. And they do this through a number of different ways, mainly around career awareness, career exploration, and then financial support for individuals who want to pursue post-secondary education. Yes, and we do have Raleigh here as well, and that are related to the construction industry. So we do have a couple of events, and maybe I'll pass it on to, I think Raleigh is here to speak if she wants to add anything else to this, but we do have 2 events coming up. One is the BOLT Speak Out, because we know that when it comes to construction, not everyone knows what all the opportunities are. So we're hosting a Speak Out. We're inviting professionals from across the construction industry, both the professional and the trade-based, to speak about their experience, provide advice, and just sort of expose folks to sort of the opportunities that are available in construction. And then on the 24th of November, we will be doing our Day of Discovery, which is a tour of an active construction site. And this will actually be at the Well, which is it's downtown, so it's very accessible for residents to come out and take a deeper dive and understand what construction is, or get to speak with the tradespeople and the professional staff. And then after that, we talk about some other options such as job shadowing and so more. So I just wanted to leave that in there, and I'll put it into the chat how you can register for these events as well.
Thank you so much, Asal. I really appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions with regards to the opportunities that were presented by Maggie and Asal? Yes, I see some questions in the chat. Email. Sure. So some folks have just asked for folks to be added in the email list. So if there's any question here, please help us spread the word. I just see some comments here regarding the previous section. So nothing as of yet.
I think a question just came in, Willie.
Go ahead.
It's Calvin.
Calvin,
what are the biggest requirements for scholarships?
The BOLT scholarship is actually based on financial need. We take into consideration, your grades and volunteer work, but ultimately what we emphasize is financial need. So if you can determine that you have financial need, that is sort of the eligibility requirement for it. And we support, and the BOLT Foundation will support individuals throughout their education. So first year all the way up to their master's, like depending on sort of when you apply, you're welcome to reapply every subsequent year for funding.
Excellent. Any other question? And I see a link on the chat for those that want more information. You can click on that distribution list on the chat for those who are interested. Any other question with regards to the engagements available? Miguel, go ahead. Miguel, we can't hear you.
I say sorry for being late at the meeting.
No worries. Now we can hear you, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have other meetings in the city.
Yeah.
So my question is, how serious is Tridel and when it comes to hiring people with mental disabilities? That is my biggest question I have as a resident living with mental disabilities for almost a quarter century of my life. I can't find any employment. I tried to apply for a community animator job, and I'm surprised that it happened to me 3 times since I arrived in Regent Park. 3 times, not just 1, not just 2, but 3 times I've been denied an opportunity for employment. So anybody has an answer?
So that's a question from Miguel. I know he's very passionate about this. I don't know if folks want to answer that right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can answer it. So Miguel, I think we've had a conversation too. And so while I think there's still work that, we can do to create greater opportunities for folks with disabilities or who are differently able, we are committed, we are equal opportunity employer, and we are committed to making our hiring process more equitable. And, like I said before, we invite you to come share your opinions. Let us know what the barriers are, and let's work together to figure out ways for folks who are differently able to access employment opportunities.
How serious you are? I mean, can you put your signature beside it? What you just said.
I mean, I just said it here, so it's recorded.
And Miguel, we
Can
just
you
have
put your
Will.
signature? I promise to find employment opportunities for people with mental disabilities.
I know
How
that.
about that? Instead of the fancy talk. How about the fun? Enough of the fancy talk. Let's do something that it needs to be done. Because in my community, a lot of members have mental disabilities.
Miguel,
They are denying opportunities for employment.
Miguel, we just got Will, who just joined the meeting, and I know Will committed to having a meeting with yourself and myself regarding that specific topic. This will be a great way to invite folks from Tridel if they want to join, to make sure that your commitment to the community, to make sure those opportunities are available. So thank you so much, Miguel. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Okay. No, Waleed, I want to commit that Tridel will be happy to join that meeting and be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, you are going to join us? Wow, awesome.
Okay, Miguel, you got that commitment, my friend. People want some change. Okay, that's very good to hear. Thank you, Brian. Gail, you can go next, and then Marshida. Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, so I think Miguel raised an important issue around employment, and employment is, and so even the responses that we're getting back, are quite canned responses. This has been an issue that has plagued people continuously, whether you are differently abled, whether you are new to the country, whether your name does not look like the Canadian, what you expect the Canadian name to look like. We are still, right? Me being an immigrant and having migrated here, 25 plus years ago, it's unreal that we are still experiencing that, right? And so I know what we, as part of the SDP and the EED group, we're meeting with Tridel soon. But those are the kinds of conversations that we want to have with you, because it's really, this is not fun anymore. We are in a 21st century. There's no way we should be doing this where people are just not getting jobs simply because of who they are. A doctor in Somalia is just as good as a doctor in Canada. So there's systemic things. This is where my point is. There's systemic things that need to change. It is not about getting a job because of community benefits. Community benefit needs to change the systemic issues that are stopping folks from getting a job. We can all go out there and get jobs. There are lots of jobs posted in this community, but there are barriers to getting the job. And there are barriers as well to sustainable employment. Employment that is not about I'm struggling to make my paycheck, or I can't take that job because I'm going to lose some of my government benefits. We have to change the system. I'd like to end it there.
Well said, Gail. Thank you so much for that passionate presentation of the facts. Rashida?
The question is about, when for the student that who can able to access those funding, is there the process is like is it a complicated process? Because I've been hearing there's a lot of complicated process on that, but I'm not talking about in this one, but I'm just saying, is there going to be a complicated process for a student to access this fund?
Good question. So who would like to respond to that?
Rashida, if I understood the question correctly, this is Will Mendez. How can others access a fund if they, or opportunities? I think this is part of the one-year engagement process where we want to hear from Regent Park residents what it is that the community needs to remove A, barriers, and B, access the opportunities that are needed by residents. So part of the one-year process, we will get into more about that, but there are other opportunities that currently exist, and they can be accessed right now through Tridel. And so, for example, there are scholarship and bursary opportunities that come out throughout the year, and more information on that can be accessed on the Tridel Community Works website. And we're more than happy to promote those opportunities on an ongoing basis.
So just for my understanding, just wanted to get that clarification. So just like for this funding, so you guys going to be engaging with the community to get this, how to allocate it and stuff like that, right? It's because the reason I asked this question, because I've been hearing there's like a lot of barrier to it, like you said, how to get it. People are just frustrated and then not able to access it. I just want that clarification. If I have it and when I talk to people, I can give them that clear answer. Sure, I'll wait for I guess, when you guys decided.
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. I think like having those opportunities lined out in a communication piece that could be shared by the neighborhood association, so the Rpna and agencies that support TCHC tenants in other ways would be super helpful, because it's making sure the information is shared. So I'm glad that the information exists, and thank you, Marshida, for that excellent question. I actually want to thank some folks who are in this meeting from agencies who support the residents of Regent Park, TCHC market, doesn't matter in whatever ways. We really do appreciate the support you're offering our community. Will, you have a question? Go ahead.
I was just wondering with regards, I just wanted to follow up on the item of taking a look at how we can create specialized programs or training opportunities or pathways to employment for people who face barriers to employment. I think there's a lot of work that is being done, but continuously needs to take place, not only at our local level with the community partners that we have and our developer partner, but also within the different sectors to ensure that people are not being discriminated against in the employment or being harassed in the workplace. I just wanted to highlight that some considerable work has been done by both Daniels and Tridel to advocate and make real changes in the construction industry in relation to, especially in relation to confronting anti-Black racism and Indigenous discrimination. So I just want to recognize the contributions from both the developers, and just want to build some confidence with the community that we want to and we will engage in those conversations not only through the 1-year process, but beginning as early as this year and throughout the entire revitalization to ensure that we can remove those barriers and ensure people are getting meaningful employment opportunities. And meaningful, I mean, by earning a living wage is what we, at minimum, strive towards. But we realize that not everyone can obtain those types of positions, and we want to work with them to ladder up throughout the employment process so they can get the types of careers and jobs that they want.
Okay,
And
so I think the critique that was brought up by the EED table about systemic barriers is a very important point that we need to consider as a community moving forward. So I just want to thank folks for committing towards that work. And I want to remind you folks at the end of this community meeting, we will, the Regent Park Neighborhood Association will be inviting you folks to a community-wide meeting on November 18th from 6 to 8, because we will be hearing from residents who have experienced those incidents in the community, so we could better inform our partners on how to approach this issue and what resource investments need to be made. Lastly, I know through the SDP, there was an invitation sent out earlier about dismantling white supremacy in healthcare event happening on October 27th, so next week. Please join that event. There'll be future events that will help us better appreciate and understand what those systemic barriers are and what reforms are underway. Maggie, go ahead, and then Miguel, then Gail.
Sure. Thanks, Waleed. And Danielle, I see you're on the call as well. And
yeah,
Gail,
I wanted to jump in when Will invited us.
Go ahead, Danielle. Go ahead.
No, Waleed, you're doing an amazing job. No apologies. It's just, Maggie, are you going to elaborate on some of the things that we're doing? Because I thought Gail and Miguel made some really great points. And I do want to say that, you know, I don't think any of us are there. You know, it's our whole, if you look at our commitment, it started off with an apology. Because while I think we'd always prided ourselves as being an equal opportunity employer, some of the social reckoning that has happened in the last couple of years, especially more intensely this last year and a half, that's been exacerbated maybe by COVID, has been a real understanding of the deep systemic issues. We were, as an employer and as a company that sees ourselves as being, you know, of community, by community, for community, we thought that, you know, as issues were coming up, we were dealing with them, but we did not to look at it or attack it at a systemic level. And so some of the things that Will might have referred to, we started working at both a grassroots level, listening to community about what they saw the barriers being, but we also are working on multiple levels to change policy. And some of the things that I would invite, I love Waleed, you mentioned that there will be a forum where we can listen and learn. I definitely welcome that. Hearing Miguel talk about people with mental disabilities, we do struggle, Miguel, because we are trying to sort through that right now because so many of these things aren't disclosable, and you shouldn't necessarily have to, but it's the unseen disabilities that we would welcome another conversation about and that we're trying to work through. We definitely have a lot to learn. I think we will make mistakes along the way, certainly, but I do believe that we'll be that much farther in doing some better work. To add substance to that commitment, I liked how, Miguel, you said, how are we accountable? We've established a diversity, equity, and inclusion accountability network within our company. And it has all different people from all different backgrounds, a lot of intersectionality, people that we've hired from across the board in the GTA and newcomers as well, that are helping us inform our internal policies. And from that, we are looking to shape the industry's policies. And we're on the anti-racism roundtable at ResCon, as well as some other ones. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do believe that our intention is to come where community is. Tridel Community Works is part of that. So you see the jobs that we are posting there are coming and getting posted there first, and or simultaneously at the Trio Creel sites. our standard employer brand sites, but in the where a Sal can access the jobs first, we're giving priority to our community to be able to apply and start working with her and Maggie and the team first. So we would all welcome a conversation if some of you would like to discuss this further, but thank you for your time and all your wonderful feedback. Appreciate that, Waleed. Thank you.
Thank you,
And sorry-
Danielle. You will be receiving that invitation for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Miguel, then Gail.
Yes, thank you, Michelle, for those kind words. You know, I've been an activist for 11 years, and I hear always kind words about improving systemic barriers to employment. But you know, when it comes to practice, it's a different story. It's a total different game. You know, I can understand in my mind, I've been talking to people in the disabled community, right? Because I'm very plugged in into several committees and groups in the city of Toronto. They cannot get it, idea that how is it possible for someone like Miguel not being able to qualify for a job to post posters inside the lobbies of the buildings, because that's mainly the bulk of the work for community animators. Trust me, I've seen them working in the building and carry a folder to hand out people flyers, or carrying a clipboard to check if people want to fill up a survey. That's all the whole work of the community animator. But you know, and they don't understand how is it possible that Miguel was denied 1, twice, 3 times a job opportunity. It's mind-boggling. It could be racism in between or some ignorance. I don't know. People are questioning this type of behavior of Tridel and TCHC. I think what it will help to understand better, Sal, I'm talking to you directly now, is that you can share the memorandum of understanding between TCHC and Tridel, so we can understand what's going on with your business plan. What part of your business plan are you allocating to hire people with disabilities, with mental and physical? That's the question, and that's the work we have to together deal with. So we don't have to go around in these discussions of nice words and wishes for the future. Thank you so much, Waleed, for this, and everybody else.
I hear your passion for action. I hear your passion for action. Thank you.
We hear it too, Miguel. So I don't want to be just nice words, lady. I hope that you see some substance, that we've got 9 Regent Park, you know, people that have been employed, but I do understand, and I loved and I picked up on the idea of work together. And I welcome that, and we will do good work together. I am convinced of it. So thank you. Thank you, Waleed.
You're welcome, Gail.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to derail our conversation here. But what I certainly would want, certainly what I'm going to say from my perspective, and from the perspective of Black people, right? I sit in too many, in many different spaces, a Black immigrant gay woman. And so I'm impacted by almost everything when it comes to these systems. I think that, you know, so when you look at the systems that are in place, you know, when it relates to racism, or it relates to job opportunities for those who are marginalized or differently abled, or whatever that may be, right? I think we have to first look at the company, so internally. And so what I'd want to ask is, you know, and you saw in the chat, I asked for the report. You know, I spent about 5 hours of my time, one-on-one conversations and in meetings with the person who was doing this anti-Black racism for TCHC, and never got a report until I just asked today, right? And it triggered me because I saw that the person got promoted to now a full-time position at Toronto Community Housing. So that made news, but the report didn't. That struck me, right? As a Black person who committed my time, I was like, yeah, they want to help. They want to help my people. They want to help us. So I committed that time. then, Will made the statement, we've done lots. And we hear that all the time. What is the lots? For me, I'd want to see what is that lots. Because when I walk onto the current sites here, and people know I walk around this community and I observe. When I see the job sites, one Black person, maybe, two, maybe. I've seen one Black guy at the Tim Horton, and I say, hey, how is your experience working in construction? And he just shrugged his shoulders, right? So I didn't pursue that anymore. And that's just one person, but we know that there is an issue overall, right? The fact that, there were nooses on the site, okay, a difficult word and difficult issue, but there are issues related to in construction and being Black. And so as part of, again, the benefit to your community, it's not only about money, it's about those systems and how they are impacting in a negative way folks in the community, right? Near and dear to my heart, obviously, because I sit in all these different buckets. But, and it's difficult in 2021 when you're having these types of conversations still, and you get the flowers of, we will do better, we're doing substantial things. So it's at the point now where I need to see it on paper. What are you doing? What is the proof, right? And who are you talking to help you do better, right? Yeah, I could say lots more, but yeah.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you for the reminder of the work that we're doing to try to honor the legacy of Indigenous people on Turtle Island who have secured trilateral community benefit agreements for that level of transparency and accountability. In our priorities report, which we will delve in deeper in our next session, you will see hard targets. You will see we want a commitment for an intentional recruitment of equity-seeking groups. And this discussion was also had with members of the TCHC Board of Directors. So the community knows what it wants. It's articulated that in the report, and we look forward to digging deeper and better understanding what those commitments look like. So Danielle, why don't you go next? And then we'll move on with the rest of the presentation.
It's very quick because I appreciated Gail mentioning intersectionality, because we are really trying to learn more about that, because there's multiple barriers that come from that. But when she asked for something specific, I can tell you, and again, I don't want to take up too much time, but Gail, like one of the tactical things that we did was there's a thing that on our job sites is called a toolbox talk. And at every toolbox talk, there's a conversation about building upon awareness about microaggressions and different types of unconscious bias. And we're trying to start at a point of education. And it's a multi-pronged approach. That's not the only thing we're doing. One of the things, all of our employees had to certify in a Built for Respect program that had a big section on some of the issues you're raising. We are not just going to do a one and done training. There are certain programs that we are bringing in on multiple levels. And I really do appreciate the emphasis that you are putting on changing the system. And I do feel in my history of working in the industry, there's been things where one thing's addressed and then everybody moves on, but there's a consistent, concerted effort in multiple forums to make real change. And I appreciate you bringing it forward again today. So thank you for that.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to the rest of our presentation. And with questions and answers. So the next section would be focused on the social development plan.
Thank you very much, Oli. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Brahim. Thank you for taking us through this section. Go ahead.
All right, great conversations. Definitely appreciate everybody participating. Can you move to the next slide, please? So the social development plan is something very unique in this community and is very unique in the city. When revitalization happened, for phases 1 and 2 and 3 the community thought that that what we are building is not just going to be a physical revitalization, but a social revitalization that goes with it. But within the table, it's actually a network of people, a network of stakeholders, a network of grassroots, a network of residents, residents from the market buildings who are new to the community, and residents who have been here for a long time within Regent Park through TCHC. All of us coming together and really talking about how do we bring change that is social cohesion and social inclusion. How do we create a better community? And we do that through many of the tables that you guys see and many of the committees that are on the table. But the ones that I want to highlight is the one that is called the stakeholders table. This table meets every 3 to 4 months and really talks about the big changes, the big decisions, the big things that need to, as a stakeholders, how do we decide as a community what matters to us? There is a planning table that meets frequently every Thursday, and that talks about how do we plan all of these things that are happening in the neighborhood. That planning table is the table is even further, there's 4 working groups. And these 4 working groups really is where the meat and all of the advocacy happens. I'm one of the co-chairs for communication. We also have the safety network, we have employment and economic table, and we have community building. There's also 3 committees that are very crucial. One is called the funding table, the other one evaluation and benchmark. And the one that we're really looking forward to and is coming soon is called Community Benefit Oversight Working Group. More information will come as we go through the slides. I want to talk to you more in depth about what are some of the goals of these 4 working groups that are very crucial to the community. Next slide, please. We have the safety network. The safety network, as I have said before, all of the tables is actually a work of the stakeholders. We have organizations that are sitting there, residents that are sitting there, and the goal is very simple, but it takes a lot of work to achieve it. It takes the whole community to achieve it. And that goal is to create the reality and the perception that Regent Park is a safe space for everyone. We really want to accomplish that, and it's not going to be something easy, but this table puts their heart out to bring that vision into a reality. Next slide, please. This table is a table that is really close to my heart. Is a table that is close to a lot of people's heart, and is the employment and economic development. So the goal of this table is to increase employment rates and entrepreneurial opportunities for local residents. This table really has a hard job because without a good employment, without bringing food to the family, how can one really say that we are living in a beautiful community? So the job of this table is to say, how do we create good jobs that are not just part-time? And some people can use part-time jobs because of they need that. But how do we bring also entrepreneurship into local realities? So I'm with this table. I support it as much as I can. Next slide, please. This table is my table. I call this table home. This is the communication table, and our job is to make information easily accessible to everyone. There's so many different channels in the community. How do we create a specific channel that people can say, hey, I know what is going on, I know how to get involved, and I know where to go. Just to give you a heads up, there is going to be a community app that is going to come out, and that community app is to create this central information. And before that community app, you still have the regentparksocial.org as a community website. Next slide, please. Community building. The goal of the community building is to create and organize equitable space, events, and groups that bring residents together, building bridges, particularly between market and TCHC. So this table's real goal is to create social cohesion, create a community through events, through gatherings, through formal and informal, is meeting your neighbors, getting to know. Sorry about that, I was getting a phone call. But this table really is about the community's table. Next slide, please. So this is the committee that I was talking to you about. This committee is going to be the committee that is going to look of the benefits that are coming through, the benefits that are secured, all the benefits. Their job is going to focus on community benefits, community engagement, community decision making, and tracking how did we benefit from all of these benefits that are coming. So this is actually a good looking forward to it, tracking all of these benefits, how many people got help through these employment, these entrepreneurship, many of these scholarships. So this, we hope that this committee, you can join it, you can get involved. And many of the other committees that I've mentioned, it's all about how do we create a better community together. And when I say together, I mean all of us. It takes a whole village to make a community better. So thank you very much. I think my slides is over. And next,
Thank you so much, Ibrahim, for that. We'll move on to the next piece, which is focused on the opportunities for engagement. And I believe there's a video. So we'd like to introduce this real quick.
So that's a slide that I'll be, well, the next few slides that I'll be speaking to. And to those of you who joined a little bit later, my name is Teresa. I'm the Revitalization Engagement Manager with TCHC. And nice to see so many new faces in the room, virtual room. Kumza, if you don't mind just playing the video, just to get us started.
I think you need a cinema theater. There's no movie theaters around here.
A bar.
A bar, for sure. A seafood place. There's no seafood around here. But no, everything else is here. There's great ice cream. There's great food. So we're good.
Some more condo buildings might be nice.
And that park's really good, right? The one behind. I don't know. Are they gonna expand that side as well? There are more parks.
26 mil, right?
Yeah.
What do you do with 26 million?
More condos?
More condos.
I think that with more building being built around in Regent Park, I think infrastructure, investment in infrastructure for people will be really important. Swimming pool, libraries, whatever can keep people busy, especially during winter time. I think that will be really important because it's going to get it very crowded here. I know housing is an issue and we are planning to build more building, but I believe that money into infrastructure should be invested as well. Thank you.
Okay, so as you would have seen, the Regent Park Focus TV has been out in the community, doing a few promos and also speaking to residents about what are community benefits. And as we did the poll earlier, there are a lot of things that people might think there's community benefits, but fall slightly outside the parameters of what we're talking about today. And so this is why the learning series are really, really important to get us thinking around what is possible. And so I just wanted to use this time to also recap what we've heard so far about engagement on community benefits. I know that there's been a lot of information shared already, but we have a community benefits coalition that was created by the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association. We do have opportunities to get involved in community life in various different SDP working groups. And we have a community benefits working group that will be established very soon as well. And I also just wanted to again highlight that the community benefits discussions are ongoing. There will be further engagement and discussion starting next year. And those discussions will help us determine what the community benefits should be for the Regent Park community. We do have a good start and a baseline with the community priorities report, community conversations, and the social development plan itself. And we've heard from as Walid was saying, a couple of hundred residents, and we do have our work cut out for us. There are still thousands more that we need to engage in the process, and that was one of the things that we wanted to get some of your ideas on tonight. So if we can move to the next slide. Thank you. What our goals are for this process is to engage a broad and diverse group of Regent Park residents in the process, engage residents that are hard to reach or disengaged, facilitate learning and conversations about community benefits, such as the learning series that you're all part of tonight. And we also want to provide accessible information and opportunities for meaningful participation so that everyone feels welcome and engaged in the process, and that they feel that they really have an opportunity to have their say as well. And so for the next slide, please. As I mentioned, we are looking to hear from as many Regent Park residents as possible to make sure that the community benefits really reflect the community's needs and wants. And so we have a very quick poll that Asal is going to put up on the screen. And that will help us determine in what ways you would like to be engaged in the community benefits process. So for those of you on the phone, I hope you can also see some of the options, but you can choose anything from, you can choose all that apply to you. It's, it's not a one-all answer, but you can join the Community Benefits Coalition, the Community Benefits Working Group, attending more events, receiving information via email or in-person events, watching more videos that Regent Park TV hosts as well, having information translated and promoting future events, as well as accessing information on our community websites as well. So perhaps we can give it another I guess 30 seconds for anyone who hasn't voted. I think we have about 13 people so far. Yes, Calvin, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I just lowered it just so in case I forget. Yeah, how does one vote exactly in the polls?
Oh, Asal, could you help with this technical question? I am a Zoom newbie, if you can believe it. I've been on WebEx this whole time during the pandemic.
I am so sorry, Calvin. I have a dog that's barking in the background. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background and I did not hear your question. Do you mind repeating?
The question was about voting. So technically, how do you vote on Zoom? So I think for those who are voting, this set of questions that pop up, I'm assuming, I'm just seeing it from...
Yeah. So you should be able to see something that's popped up on the screen there, and then you can select all the answers that apply. Do you see the pop-up on your screen?
No, I don't see it.
Yeah, you have to select the three dots, which is more, Calvin, especially if you're on your phone or in a tablet, select more. which is the three dots, and then you'll see an option that says poll.
Okay,
Thanks,
gotcha.
thanks,
All right,
Gail,
thank you
for
so much.
that.
You're welcome, my dear.
So much, Gail. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, Gail. Go ahead, Teresa. Continue.
Thanks, Waleed. Teresa continues. So I think we can maybe close the poll. I think, Calvin, if you voted, you can give us a thumbs up if you like, and we can, oh, you've closed it already. Okay, so from what it looks like on the results at the moment, there is definitely interest to attend in-person events. And I know that we've all been feeling that after all of these months of Zoom meetings. I think everyone just wants to connect in person and have that, face-to-face conversation instead of us, doing it all on the screens again. People are happy to receive information through email. And also, a lot of people are keen to help us promote future events as well. So we're definitely going to be reaching out to those of you who have an interest in that. Okay, and then I know that we had planned to have maybe, let's say, deeper discussion around, we can move to the next slide, Kamsa. Thank you. We did want to have a deeper discussion around some successful strategies for engagement and what role all of us on the call can play in order to help promote information about the learning series or community benefits or anything that is happening in Regent Park. I am mindful that we only have 17 minutes. So instead of going into a breakout room, perhaps if people wanted to share some ideas, either in the chat or, if you just want to raise your hand or unmute yourself, please feel free. Maybe we can spend 10 minutes on that.
So I'm going to encourage folks to raise their hands if they'd like to share. But why don't I get started? I think an amazing engagement is, I think, word of mouth. I think word of mouth is very powerful in Regent Park when people talk to each other, call each other, email stuff to each other, especially when it comes to very important events or meetings or initiatives. So word of mouth, I think, is important. So just getting the word out in as many spaces as possible. But I see Marshida and then I see Ines. Marshida, go ahead.
Hello.
Oh, Michael, sorry. Michael, you wanted to say go first? Go ahead.
You don't have to go first. I just wanted to get into.
Okay, well, I'll put you after Ines. Go ahead. Go ahead, Marshida.
No, I just maybe when you have folks who comes in just to get that orientation piece done, what is this basic, there's a lot of people who will come in. Since I was in this meeting, I know what's community benefit is, and then I know about, by joining so many meetings, I know what is it. But there's a lot of people who join in for the first time or things, maybe that orientation piece, and then make sure they understand what they're committing to and things like that could be, more helpful to people. And more than word of mouth is able to have connection one-on-one with the people and to get them understanding, even on that spot, lobby intersect or in the park, just have that conversation. If you have 200 people, if 10 people understand it, and then you just achieve something. That's what I'm thinking. So anyway, I'll stop it at that.
Okay, Ines?
Yeah, I think it's important that you guys already mentioned word of mouth. There's a WhatsApp group. I've been going with all these training certificates that we've been doing. We've been going to all the townhouses and buildings, talking to them, because it does make a huge difference and impact because you have one-on-one conversation. Even to the schools, you could send it to the school, to the principal or Nelson Mandela or Lord Dufferin, and they send it to the parents that take their kids to the school. So that's another way too, right? Because I send them the training certificate to the school, an email, and then they forward it to the parents that they have the list. So, and it's, yeah, that's it.
Excellent. So also reaching out to our schools, educators is very helpful to get information out to parents. So that's another great way. Teresa, go ahead. Oh, I hear Michael. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that success is really dependent on people having the ability to be involved in the actual writing of the final results, so that people, agree on what's in the report rather than just give input and report writer makes of it something. So I think success really depends on people actually agreeing and that the final report actually comes from the agreement of everybody involved.
Excellent suggestion,
All
Michael.
great suggestions. Thank you, everyone. I did want to maybe touch on the question that was in the chat about, how do we engage those that are hard to engage or those that are unaware or too busy, stressed, isolated, and how this is being done. That's definitely a question for more than a 10-minute conversation. And, unfortunately, there's no silver bullet or a magic bullet or a recipe that can help us with that. But there are definitely strategies that can be implemented around some of that. And that firstly starts with having diverse representation on the engagement team that is leading that work, whether that is, TCHC, Tridel, Rpna, any organization really that is trying to engage in community. I do want to say that, through some of the recent community animator hiring process, we have really focused on the diversity within Regent Park. And I do hope that you can meet many of them in the coming months. And I know that some of them are actually here tonight as well. And it does take a lot around, building relationships with people that are known within the community, having community leaders that can help to present some of the messages to their neighbors, to other community members that are part of their groups. And certainly, it is about time. It's about trust building and about relationship building. Just to the last point around being busy, stressed, and isolated, I think we've all been feeling that through the pandemic, especially since this has all started. And I do hope that, we can move to some form of, normality over the next few months and years, and we can see the end to it as well. But also welcome any other suggestions around how we specifically engage those that are hard to reach and disengaged as well. I think that's a challenge for any organization. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. We've got about 10 minutes left, and before Dini speaks, I want to honor the comments made by our participants on the chat to contribute to this conversation. So Sheena, thank you for your question regarding what strategy is going to be deployed around engaging the hard to engage or those that are unaware or too busy, stressed, isolated. How is this being done intentionally? Thank you so much for that. I also see a response from Danielle to Sheena's point. Thank you so much, Danielle, for responding, acknowledging that. And then I see also a request from Matthew with regards to, is there a common website that is a hub or repository for past meetings, events, or meetings? We do have information on YouTube. So I'm wondering if we could also make sure that Regent Park Social also has that information. Great suggestion, Matthew, to incorporate that information. Ibrahim, it would be nice to hear from you at future meetings. TCHC started pods, what's up? That's how, perfect. Ines talked about that and how to update tenants. Thank you, Ines. Kumsa also shared a background of the Regent Park Coalition website. and Ibrahim, and also the Regent Park social website. So thank you for sharing that in the chat. Dini, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think sometimes we tend to undervalue and overlook our younger members of this community. And I'm not just talking about youth, I'm also talking about children. And, you know, sharing information with them, they're often the information ambassador of their homes. You know, and so getting language that's clear enough and easy to understand, and actually sharing it with our children and our younger youth, because they will have those conversations in their families and in their homes. And I just think they're an undervalued resource in this community.
Well said. Thank you, Dini, for reminding us that you know, the young minds are so important when it comes to engagement, because they are also knowledge keepers for their homes. And I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much. So having a strategy to engage directly with the youth on this has to happen. Thank you. So I think we're almost done with our presentations because we're not doing our breakout session. So I think what we can do is we can take a couple of more questions. I see more stuff on the chat, and short attention spans. Good. True. 2-hour Zoom meetings is not for that. Well said. So how do we communicate knowledge or information more effectively? I see that point. Thank you, Sheena. Very wise. Very, very wise. Yeah, so I just wanted to promote an opportunity for you folks to get more involved, you know, in organizing also hopefully future community learning series. You can get involved in your neighborhood association and community benefits coalition by contacting Pavitra, and her contact is rpna.info@gmail.com. But also visit the Regent Park Coalition.ca website to sign up for updates, to get information regarding this work, and also join us for the next community learning series. So please mark your calendar, November 9th. So spread the word, either through word of mouth, through social media, via email. We will share the details for you folks about our next meeting. And we also want to hear from you folks about how we could better engage our community. Next slide. Also, I want to invite you all to a community meeting led by your neighborhood association. So the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, it's going to be an evening discussion that's going to focus on phase 4 and 5. Learn more about the community benefits priorities, and also upcoming key dates for community involvement. We're going to be having a space to hear from our neighbors, their concerns directly as a neighborhood association. So please mark your calendar. It's November 18th, and the time actually is 6 to 8. So mark it 6 to 8 on November 18th.
Any final closing thoughts, Pavitra or Walid?
I also want to thank Kumsa Baker from the Toronto Community Benefits Network for supporting this amazing community learning series. Members of the Community Benefits Coalition, Tridel, Toronto Community Housing, and all the residents that chose to participate tonight. You know, they chose to spend 2 hours of their lives with us to better learn more about the community benefits process, and also to support this very important engagement work. So thank you for coming. Thank you for coming along with us on this journey while we learn community benefits. Please don't forget to join us on November 9th. Mark your calendars and spread the word so that we could engage with more of our neighbors. Pavitra?
Yes, Walid. I mean, thank you all once again, and you summed it up very well. So I request you all to contact me. I'm Pavitra from Rpna, or from TCHC, it's Teresa, and Tridel is Maggie or Asal. We have all our email addresses over here, and from TCBN Kumsa. And kindly join us and help shape Regent Park.
Thank you so much for sharing the contact info on the screen. Please take the contacts down. We want you to engage with us moving forward. Thank you once again and have a lovely evening. It's 8:02. And thank you for joining our second community learning workshop.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all of our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.